All right, so I know we're here and we're live. Yay! So if you're here, please let me know so that I will know when I can start rolling. I want to believe that I'm live from the group. I want to believe that I'm already live from the group. Awesome. Okay, please, if you're here, do let me know. Let's roll. Let's get going. You're going to be seeing my slide. That's what you're going to be seeing as I share this today. Please, once you get here, do let me know so that we can roll and then we get going. It's already 50 seconds after. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for 1, 2, 3, 4 persons, and then I will roll on this topic. Right, so waiting. So please, if you're here, do let me know. I can see that one person is watching already. So like I said, what you're going to be seeing on this slides are going to be the slides. So you're not going to see my face. If you want to see my face, just go straight just go straight to my profile and then you see my face. And as we go on, you're also going to see who is speaking with you. We're going to just go right on. And if you've ever been on any webinar before and you haven't been on this kind of webinar, trust me, this will be that very webinar that you wish that you will never miss. So if everybody is there, you can invite the other parents, the other members that they should come and say this. So today we're talking about, are you still tied to your parents' apron? We're going to just go. What a topic. The very first time this topic came to me, before then, I had just finished a particular course on adverse childhood effect. And, you know, when Mommy Mo sent me this topic, when she, reached out to me to say, are you going to be speaking at you're going to be speaking at our webinar for 2020? I had just finished the course and she said, she gave me 2 topics and I saw this one. Are you still tied to your parents' apron? I said, this is it. That's the topic that we are going to be talking about today. You're wondering, who is Wendy Ologe? Very quickly, I'm going to say this. Why should you listen to me? My name is Wendy Ologe, like I already said, and that's my face. For the people who are wondering that my face is not on this webinar. But hey, like I said, if you want to see my face, please quickly go to my timeline and you see my face. Thank you, Richard. I see you. Irene Bagwell, I see you. And thank you, Irene. Before I start, I also want to say thank you to Mommy Mo. Thank you for inviting me to this your awesome platform. It's a platform that, I've gleaned a lot from, watching from one side, seeing the awesome job you're doing. I'm so much honored to be here. So, like I said, why should you listen to me? Wendy Ologe is a seasoned parent coach, and I'm also the author of 2 bestsellers called Connect to Correct and The Discipline That Works. And Connect to Correct have sold over 3,000 copies in so many states in Nigeria and also outside Nigeria, over so many countries, US, UK, and all that. My second book also got launched sometime in November and sold 1,000 copies in the same month that it was launched. That's about that. I'm also the founder of the Intentional Parent Academy, and it's a coaching outfit that is dedicated to parents and intending parents on how to actually raise children in this time. Hi, Amaka, I see you. Thank you for coming right on. I've spoken on many stages, and part of the places I've spoken is being interviewed at the 700 Club, which was aired at TBN. TBN is the biggest Christian television in the world. and I've been privileged to actually be on that TV. Also, in October 2019, I was also in California, where I represented Africa at the Facebook Global Parenting Panel in California, in the United States of America. So, something again, that's a picture of me and at the headquarters in Facebook, sometime in October 2019. And again, some very, something that you want to know about me that is not very much out there. I also run an organization called Smart Office. It's a corporate organization. And I've also worked in the bank at some point in my life. And I've also been privileged to work in USAID for over 10 years. My experience is cut across, management. Apart from parenting, I do other things. I have 2 children, and I also have 1 foster daughter, an adult. My 2 children are 10. They will be 10 in, let's say, April. So that's who I am. So I'm a mom. I'm also a mentor. I'm also a teen mentor as well. And I've also been privileged to work with a good number of parents. So this is me saying, why should Wendy be talking to you? What is an apron string? In fact, while I was preparing for this class, I found out loads of things that you want to learn. Trust me, even me, while I was, according to one of my friends, this one is deep, as in very deep. So, one of the things that I've found out about, this apron string is like, it's something being used to describe, as a relationship between a mother and a father who controls their adult child. This topic, remember, says, am I still tied to my parents' apron string? And we're explaining what an apron string exactly means. Thank you, Mommy Mo. Thank you so much. What is the objective of this topic? Simply put, this is to show you how your nurturing may have inculcated in you the learned helplessness because of the way you were parented. I'm sure many of us are hearing this word, learned helplessness, for the first time. I told you that this webinar is not going to be like anything you have seen. Just hang in there. So, how is it that the way I have been parented have actually, given me this learned helplessness that I am having right now as an adult? The way I was raised, what I was given, how has it changed anything about my life as an adult? Okay? First of all, I'm going to help us with the process. I'm going to be explaining what learned helplessness is. What learned helplessness is. So people who have learned helplessness, they don't believe anymore that they can positively affect the direction of their lives. That's one thing. A lot of your efforts seem futile. They give up trying. They only engage in the tasks that require little effort. As in, you don't just want to see everything. I don't know if you've ever heard this, I can't keep myself slogan that is out there. It's part of learned helplessness. So for those of us who are shouting, oh, I can't keep myself, it's part of it. So you just feel, I beg, I can only do the one I can do. So you wonder why, everything is so difficult, compared to what your peers are doing. You have little or no motivation, incentive to achieve, anything that you're doing. You're not interested in learning new ways. You're not interested in learning ways that you can cope with life struggles. What it simply means is that the natural joy of learning seems to have gone. How do I mean when I say the natural joy of learning? You don't feel that you need to learn anything anymore. Okay, so it's as if you're stuck. It's as if you're completely stuck where you are. So learned helplessness is one thing that we don't even know, that a lot of the ways that we were parented actually have given us this syndrome of learned helplessness. I want us to assimilate this just for a while. Okay, let's go on. All right. So, have you ever wondered why you fight knowledge? Okay, so part of what learned helplessness also does to adults is that you actually begin to fight knowledge because you are not interested in learning new ways. You're not interested in learning what works. You will see yourself struggling. Somebody will tell you, this thing can be done better. You are arguing. Learned helplessness. Okay. Hi, Ify. Hi, Chinyere. Good to have you here. And then, you're looking at yourself. You don't want to learn. I was reading something today and I realized that 80% of Nigerians actually suffer from learned helplessness. Why? Because we really don't have the natural joy of learning. It's gone because of the way that we were raised. How do I know I have learned helplessness? Follow me through, because like I said, this webinar is going to be one of the, in fact, I don't think that most of the things that we'll be saying here that you'll be wondering, that's new knowledge. That's how hot our webinar gets. All right. So do you find yourself stuck in bad situations, feeling as if there is no way out? That's number one. Do you tend to give up before you even try, so that you just avoid pain of self-perceived inevitable failure? Where you just sabotage yourself. You're looking at this, you haven't even tried. You already concluded that, no, this thing, I beg, let me just leave it. You sabotage yourself. You see the concept of us saying, oh, money is hard. Oh, it's difficult to live life. Oh, it's hard. It's part of learned helplessness. Do you blow off your success, assuming it was an accident, things went so well? Things happen to you, you go like, it's not me. I don't even know what I did. Learned helplessness. Because you cannot even see yourself being able to actually articulate your processes. The moment your processes begin to look like, it's something that you can't achieve, you tell yourself that is not you. And then we begin to assume the power. Please don't get me wrong. There is a God factor, there is grace, but we begin to assume the power, over you. And then you now begin to see yourself as somebody who is not able to actually achieve those things. It happens to a lot of people. All right. So if so, you might have, you will see yourself doing a lot of that, and it's learned helplessness. It causes emotional and physical pain every day for millions of people. Every day. When I mean every day, I mean every day. Millions of people are struggling with learned helplessness daily because there is really nothing, for us. We can't really see it. That is a struggle. All right. So, like I said, the good news is that you're not stuck. That's the good news. At least that's the good thing about it. You're not stuck. You can learn. And because it's learned, it can also be unlearned. By recognizing how it happens and addressing those contributing factors. For parents, for your children, you can rescue a child who is creeping towards hopelessness, learned helplessness, because you now know. I say that knowledge is a prerequisite to raise anybody in the 21st century. You miss it, you miss out. That's the truth. You miss it, you miss out. All right? So one of the things that you will need to, the question we're asking this evening is, now we have learned what learned helplessness is, but the question we're asking this evening is, the question is, am I still tied to my parents' apron? Is a question we will all answer tonight. We need to ask ourselves this question. By the time this webinar is done, you should be able to answer and say, yes, so I'm tied and I need help, or I'm not tied and everything is well. Am I still tied to my parents' apron? Very important question to ask. Okay? How does nurturing nurture helplessness? Now, that's the question you want to start asking yourself. How is it that I am nurturing a child and then I'm also nurturing helplessness? What specifically is causing the condition of learned helplessness? Learned helplessness is likely brought on by a number of factors, so many of them, so many factors. But we're going to be looking at just a few of them today, and then we will go through the process. Okay, so this is number one. Unpredictability. Get your pen and your paper. Don't do this webinar like any other one. Unpredictability. I don't know why I'm excited about this webinar today. You know, new knowledge gives you this kind of shock that comes with it, and I think that's the way I'm feeling, right? Unpredictability. I will explain this. This is a marriage group, and I think every single person in this group needs to understand this point. If you don't take any other thing out from this webinar, take this out. When chaos and inconsistency reign in a home, children start believing they can't influence or affect a good outcome out of even the most basic situations. So for children in these homes, life is random, is unpredictable. They don't have confidence. They can't make good choices that always pay off. They don't even know the consequences of bad choices. So there's a roller coaster in the home. There's a parenting emotions. There are responses. Life simply can't be decoded. They don't know anything. So that dynamic creates helplessness and depression. Let me say this again in another way. Addictions, affairs, painful marriages, secrets, and parental absence can contribute to an environment that is not too regular and predictable for a child to feel secure in his ability to change things for the better. Yes, so Chinyere, get paper and pen. No. All right, so this is often seen in dysfunctional homes. Okay, I have named it. I said addictions, affairs. You know, when you're having affairs, and I don't know, recently I was with a teenager who actually showed a symptom of learned helplessness. And you know, while we're talking, what caused hers was that her dad was having an affair. Her dad doesn't even know that she knows. She's the home front is unpredictable. She can't tell what will happen tomorrow. She doesn't know what can happen to her. She's not sure that anything can, you know, she's not sure about anything. She just feels anything can change. And that's it. Anything can change right now. That child is already being plugged into, you know, learned helplessness. I'm still going to tell you what happens to children who actually get, you know, into all that. So unpredictability is one key factor. Painful marriages, you are in a marriage, the marriage is so painful, the atmosphere, it's so brutal. A lot of people tell me, oh, I'm just there for the sake of my children. let me not go into all that. I'm not a marriage coach. Mommy Mo, come and complete this class, this part of the class. All right. Let me talk about parental absence. Parental absence actually causes your child to have some kind of learned helplessness, because your child is actually not themselves. As in, your child does not have the connection that is required to actually connect and begin to predict things. It gives a vacuum. It creates a situation where the child does not feel secure enough to be in that home. Inconsistency, chaos. If the child does not know what kind of relationship exists between between the mother and the father, it can cause the child to plug into learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is also a psychological condition. Right here in our client, we don't see a lot of these things. We just think this thing is not as as it is and all that. So that takes us to the next point. The next point: overparenting. Overparenting. Yes, Irene, unpredictability breeds despair. Very true. Overparenting. I'm going to start off with this quote. Overfunctioning parents usually end up raising underfunctioning children. Write it down. Don't just put it as overfunctioning parents usually end up raising underfunctioning children. These are parents who do way too much for their children. People keep asking me, how is it that you have 10-year-olds who can stay on their own, cook their food, do things for themselves? And I tell them they are not tied to my apron. Are you still tied to your parents' apron strings? Overfunctioning. Have you ever heard of helicopter parenting? Where you are like an helicopter. Can you see this picture up here in the slide, on the slide, where the father is trying to come to rescue, everything that happens to the child, you're there. Everything you feel like, oh, I'm that super parent. I'm just there. It breeds learned helplessness. Yesterday I was in a class that Irene was teaching on how to actually teach children independence. I smiled because there was something. One of the ways that I had connected with Mommy Mo was there was a post I shared on my group. The post was on, will you let your 15-year-old travel on their own? Many parents, that post was something else. Many parents came and said, no, never, in this insecurity, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, are you guys for real? Are these not the same parents that are sending 10-year-olds to university? Forgive me, I'm just trying to trade joke. But really, you see children that are 13, they're in school. They are going to university because we want to prove a point. And yet we're saying you're saying you cannot send your 15-year-old. And I shared the post and I said, you can't drop independence on a child. You need to be able to actually teach a child independence. And it does not start from when the child becomes an adult. It starts from day one. Learned helplessness. Overparenting can cause your child to become helpless. For example, it happens when you wake up, your older children are the ones waking them up. You still haven't taught them how to be able to wake themselves up. You are the one making lunch. You gather everything essential, everything, paper, everything. You are the one. With the one to travel, you are the one. The truth is, young people actually feel at peace and competent in their lives, all right, while they are grateful for help from their mom and dad. But all this over-involvement actually threatens their confidence that they can manage their own lives on their own. That they can manage their own lives on their own. You need to let your children be able to learn to manage their lives on their own. Today, when I came back from work, I was trying to put some things together because today my day has been so busy, and I had come back and there was no water. there's a water factory just down the street in my estate, and that's where we get water from. And I just called the twins and I said, you need to go get water down, get some bottled water down the street. And immediately they wore their clothes, took off, went to buy it. And I didn't look through my window. Are they going to be carried by a lion? When we do this over parenting, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Maybe some of us cannot really understand it. But really, there's a psychological downside. If you're doing it because you have seen yourself go through something, because I hear a lot of parents say, oh, because when I was young, there was no what's it called? There was no attention. So you now come and then you overdo it. Overparenting is a challenge. Let's move to the next slide. Achievement stress is another problem of learned helplessness. Achievement. I don't even know where to start on this one. Achievement stress. Learned helplessness can actually result from pressure. The pressure to enter into the world, which the child is not yet ready to do. Many times I've heard people say, oh, the child can just do it. That's not true. You don't drop, I said it earlier, you don't drop independence on a child. You teach the child deliberately how to become independent. Deliberately how to become independent. A child feels stress when he's ill-prepared for something. Stressed. I was sharing with someone, I said, part of we have a parenting goal for, the year. Parenting is 18 years. If you do not have a goal, if you do not have a plan, then you are, I don't understand, what exactly it is that you're planning on your journey. Your plan should take 18 years, broken into goals, monthly, daily, where you are actually looking at yourself and you're measuring it. This is not perfection. It's a journey. You need to look at parenting as a journey, not an end, not perfection. I was sharing with a group of parents recently, and I said, I am not doing this because I want my children to be perfect. No, far from it. I'm not even raising perfect people. Do my children make mistakes? Oh, yes. So what I want is that the day I'm done, and even if everything in the world goes wrong, I can hit my chest and say, I did this, and I did it right. Your marriage is having issues or whatever, can you beat your chest and say, I did this, I got all the required knowledge there is to be able to do this right? That's nothing to do with perfection. So a child will feel stressed if he begins to actually be put through things that he hasn't learned. I share a very vivid example. My children, part of our plan was that we wanted them to be able to stay on their own in the house at about this age. We started putting in plans from the time they turned 7. From the time they turned 8, we've stopped having in-living helps in my home. And we've done that now from the time they turned 8 till now that they are 10. Parents ask me, oh, how do you get to do it? Oh, how do you get your children not to watch TV? Oh, how do you train children? Our problem in this climb is that we leave training, we want to shout and flog. We don't want to teach and train. But unfortunately, there's nothing that you can do that you do not actually need to teach. So this stress that you're giving the child because the child is ill-prepared is that the child begins to feel fear. It creates fear. And the fear slows learning. It actually prevents your child from getting out of a challenge. It slows down learning. There are many stress on children today. In fact, half of them are unnecessary. That's the truth. Somebody asked me one time that why is it that my children don't do extramural lessons? I smiled. He said, but you pay for music classes, you pay for coding class, you pay for everything that is not book. What we have failed to understand in this climb is that people are not happy because of academic qualifications. People become happy eventually for the things that they are able to do, that they can do. So apart from your child, I'm an advocate of, I'm one of those people who came out of their class in school. But believe you me, that's not all that life is about. There's much, much more to life. Children are hurried along growth. You see parents, now schools are giving children to learn things at age 3. They tell them to write. If you don't write, they beat you. I don't get it. I don't understand it. They are pushed on all fronts. Children are told to go to school on every, front. My children's proprietors offered teachers. She is very big on completion and processes. Offered parents a discount for children who will do grade 6. Do you know we did a sampling, because I'm part of this school PTA schools. We did a sampling of children who their parents want them to actually leave by grade 5. My children are in grade 5. They are not prepared. They are not prepared. That's the truth. This set of children are not prepared. The ones that I can even feel that, okay, these children can even cope or might cope, they are the ones that their parents are saying, no, we want the process. We need to stop this craze, this madness. The problem is, it's not about now. It's going to affect those children in the later. There are many stories that I would like to share, but time will not permit me. I'm a storyteller, but I'm looking at the time. I'm trying to put myself on a timer. Some children respond well to pressure, some don't. We need to understand that. Some don't even handle pressure very well. It stifles their learning and creativity. So when people, adults and peers tell a teenager, oh, you should be ready to do something, and he isn't, the teenager thinks that there's something wrong with him. But we are on different pedestal when it comes to learning spectrums. There are 16-year-olds who are ready to drive. There are 16-year-olds who are not ready. So when a child knows that he's not ready, or when you know that the child is not ready, and you put life pressure on them, the child, he feels defective. These are some of the things that cause learned helplessness. Now we're moving to the next point. Moving carrots. As we move to the next point, we move to the point called moving carrots. Can you see this? When I saw this picture, when I was preparing the slides, in fact, I fell in love with the picture. Can you see this? Can you see the way that they are running? See, when you heap more and more expectations on your child, it contributes to your child's sense of never being able to finish. Do you know that our inability to finish is part of our problem in this generation? You see people start things, but they can't finish. People call it the never finish syndrome. It's called learned helplessness. It's part of it. You can't finish things. You can't finish things. So we need to actually begin to look at those things holistically beyond ourselves. When teens outline of their parents' expectation constantly changes, they begin to feel helpless. Your expectation needs to, when people ask me, how do you instill discipline? What is it that I'm very big on discipline? I talk about discipline a lot because I think that that's one of the areas that parents have got it all wrong. All wrong. People say, oh, spare the rod, spoil the child. Let's not even go there. I know that when you raise a child with the rod, in quotes, the rod, as in the proper rod, not the cane we are all carrying about, the child will be put together. I'm not telling you stories I know. Very much well put together. Okay, so when it comes to discipline, many times your expectations are not known. Your children are confused. You keep confusing the children and you make them helpless. In future, it causes them, it contributes their sense of never being able to finish. Have you noticed? You start up a project, you're writing a book, you stop on the way. Learned helplessness is learned. So these things are key. It's even more aggravated when parents constantly correct their children, reminding them of how they are falling short of accomplishing the list. Watch your little brother, do this one, do that one, do that one. And when the child even actually do things, you actually never get to appreciate the child because we don't even understand some of these things. So the child is constantly thinking, I'm falling short. I'm falling short. I'm not worthy. And you're constantly telling each other, you're not meeting up, you're not meeting up. It creates an ability. It creates the ability for the child not to be able to finish when they become an adult. Stop doing this to children. All right? So, learned helplessness is part of it. The next slide, I'm going to move quickly. How am I still tied to my parents' apron? This topic has been saying, are you still tied to your parents' apron strings? So I'm asking you, how am I still tied to my parents' apron? Learned helplessness often begins in childhood. If you take adverse childhood effects tests, AC, every person who is raising another person should take that test, go through the process, create a sanity in their mental state, create a sanity with their emotions before they are actually able to do something, do something that is worthwhile as regards parenting. So, learned helplessness begins in childhood. It's not a today thing, like they will say. For those who have experienced neglect, if you've ever experienced neglect, abuse, if you've ever witnessed your parents show signs of this condition, you are also going to learn it. Perhaps as a child, they cry and then their mother just, abandon them and just ignore them. Eventually, they will learn that there is no reason to cry. Since their mother will not come to their aid, it begins to re-engineer their brain. I was reading something the other day about our subconscious. Okay, so I'm taking a course and we were given an assignment to read something about the subconscious. I learned that the subconscious is actually the major thing that controls our conscious mind today. Our conscious mind today is controlled by the subconscious. Okay, can you still hear me? Am I still here? Okay, good. It's controlled by the subconscious. So many times we're saying things, but we don't know that we're asking for our subconscious. And let me even give you the interesting part of the subconscious. The subconscious is developed mainly by the time that we're 0 to 8, maximum 10 years. So everything you're doing is from your subconscious. When you have the inability to finish things, go back. Go back. If you had, if you had moving carrots at some point. So many things that happen to us are the things that we have witnessed, are the things that have happened to us as children. I keep saying that for us to really move forward as a nation, we need to actually begin to look at raising children. Look at that part as a whole new, on a whole new level. Many times you actually see that a child sought help from a parent, so that they will be able to keep away from an abuser. But the mother did nothing to help. That causes learned helplessness. In families with learned helplessness, it's unusual for the mother to respond, either with silence or say there's no other option available. They just have to live with it. The mother allows the abuse to continue because she feels there's no way to go. There's no money to support her children. She can't support herself. She settles. The children learn to do the same. And the circle goes on. Let me tell you what has happened to us as a nation as regards our marriage. Interestingly, my husband is also a marriage counselor. So at least I will be able to glean one or two, things from the things I have heard him say. One of the things that have happened to us as regards our marriage is that we are now reacting. We are not responding to the issues. We are reacting. We are reacting to the things that are happening. For instance, you see people just pack their bag. Nobody is ready to to work on any marriage anymore. We are depressed with learned helplessness in this generation like never before. Like never before, because it has re-engineered, everything has come back to us. So there's so much gap. So people are now saying, well, I can't stay, even if it's any small thing. Nobody wants to finish anything anymore. Learned helplessness. All right. So your children also learn to do the same, because that is also what you are doing. All right. So now we're saying now you need to know, are you still tied to your parents' apron? I was listening to a story recently where a child was crying, an 8-year-old who has been pressured to have sex. And the 8-year-old had been pressured for 2 years. So she was 6 when somebody was pressuring her. So when she was asked, why didn't you tell your mother? She said, my mother would kill me. Wow. Our connection game is I don't even know what to say about it. It worries me, really. All right. So let's move on. The question now is, sorry, are we still here? Whoops. Are we still here? Okay, I don't know why my slide is doing what it's doing, but it's fine. We continue. So the question now is, how can I get help for myself? How can I get help for myself? People who struggle with learned helplessness. Sorry about my blank slide. I don't know why he's showing me loading, but we're going to go on after all. I don't know why that. I don't want to stop the class. Let's go on. So how can I help myself? People who struggle with learned helplessness often think it's too deep. They can't get out of it. They believe that, the amount of energy to use to catch up with will overwhelm them, and, so what's the point? Parents don't even understand when a child, they love more, they don't understand why overparenting a child is a problem. How do you begin to even help a child too much? Help a child that you have even, that you too much help have already created a problem for. How do you begin to do that? How can I help myself as an adult? How do I begin to recreate in my subconscious? How do I begin to recreate in my subconscious? All right? How to react. People who struggle with learned helplessness blame themselves for everything. They struggle, everything is a problem. Everything is, they don't really see a lot of things in the positive. They struggle with low self-esteem. And I'm seeing low self-esteem become a thing also in our generation, us raising children with low self-esteem. We need to also watch it. All right. So they cannot and should not expect their life to improve. The pattern, it just carries on to the next generation. Sometimes you see families who become more and more unhealthy, generation after generation. They give up, assuming that any effort they put in their part will just be futile. Okay, yes, Ma, you're already asking how can we correct learned helplessness. We are coming there. All right, so adults in this situation either gives up on attempting important milestones in their lives, or they give up, before they can even complete the milestones. I had said earlier that inability to finish things. In most cases, they feel they will never, achieve better than what they are doing. That's where you now see mediocrity, and you see it so much in this part of the world. No matter how much they try, how hard, they just end up settling. You just settle, and that's the same thing we're doing. They feel they don't have control over situations. You feel that there's more to the situations around you. There's no control. Research actually shows that learned helplessness inhibits your emotional growth and your development. and can leave you struggling with anxiety, guilt, depression. You just come to a point where you're just there. You are okay with how things are. You just settle. You just settle in life. You're not thinking of growth. You're not thinking of development. When someone comes to you and says, you can stop struggling on this thing and learn how to do it better, you fight it because we are set in our ways. Learned helplessness. Today, I was having a professional photo shoot for an event, Social Media Week, that I will be speaking at come February. And, I was having a photo shoot, different. And then the photographer told me something. She said, no, I want you to just put up the way you feel you are comfortable with. I smiled. I said, no. I said, I've already done a therapy in being set in my ways. I want you to also bring in your professionalism, bring in what you have. I'm not a professional. And I have told myself severally that I have come to a place where I am open to learn from anyone. Learned helplessness actually makes you not to be able to learn from anyone. You feel helpless, yet you do not want to learn. You settle for where you are. And then everything becomes okay. All right? Which is not okay. All right. So now we're looking at how does this thing even affect us? We're looking at how dating, it affects us in dating. Choosing a mate, you settle for anybody. Let me just settle. Whoa, there's no better person out there. You settle for anybody. You settle in your career. Being a parent, you settle for anything. You say, well, after all, that's how my parents did it. And that's why whenever I see things like, but we turned out okay, I said, this is it. Learned helplessness. We have learned to be helpless. And that's where we are. You feel that you should achieve more, you should not achieve more. You just want to be where you are. Any failed attempt serve as a reminder. Anytime you try and it fails, it reminds you that you're stupid, you're lazy, you're worthless, you're not deserving, you shouldn't be doing this. And it goes on and on and on. Right? In this individual's life is too painful to face. So, somebody else said, how can I help myself? How can I help myself? Adults in this situation either give up, like I said, on attempting milestones and all that. What can I do? Sometimes the hardest part is realizing that this is an issue. That's actually the hardest part. So the hardest part is actually realizing that this is an issue. If we can realize that this is an issue, yay, my slides are back. You're going to say, son, yip. If you realize that this is an issue, then you are going to be able to help yourself. You can overcome this way of experiencing life. The past does not have to dictate your present or your future. Your children, your parents, they have no power over your present future. They can't control it. They can't control your lives. So for children, they have no power on how to control their own lives. So we adults need to help them. But you know what, like I say, you cannot give what you do not have. You can only give what you have. You need to help yourself for you to be able to help your child. So with the help of a knowledgeable therapist, is a therapy thing. That's the truth. It means that you're going to be replacing old beliefs with new healthy beliefs. You need to learn to have compassion on your own self. You need to learn to begin to unthink a lot of things that you have taught yourself. You need to learn to assert yourself. You need to learn to put yourself in a place where you know that you are the one that steers your life to where it should go to. There's a quote that I heard from, permit me to quote Bishop Davido Edebo, and he says, many times he sees Christians feeling helpless It's not just about Christians. It's actually mainly about in our climb. We feel helpless and we say, no, it's only God that can do it. And he said something that was very striking. He said, if it's only God that can do it, why not sit down in your house and allow God to come and wear clothes for you? We need to sit back and begin to seek knowledge on how to help ourselves. Like I said, the best thing for, to unlearn this, the best way to actually unlearn this is to get a knowledgeable therapist, a compassionate therapist, somebody who will be able to re-engineer the way you're thinking, re-engineer the things that have been put in your head, because this is about thought process. That's what it's about, thought process. So imagine if God is sitting down there and saying, my son, I can do it all for you. In fact, Bishop Oyedepo says that if the day you don't wear clothes and go out, you will go naked. In fact, people will see you and laugh at you. Say, God can never come down and wear clothes for you. Never. But we are constantly projecting learned helplessness. That's what we see in our climb. Not because it's our fault, but because of the way we were raised. For instance, you are in a marriage academy. Mommy Mo Hart's book. You're looking at yourself. Your marriage is not looking like what you want, in quotes. And you say, okay, and then she shares something about a concept in the book and says, this is what you need to learn about this. You just say, well, I beg. Didn't our parents do it? They did it, I beg. All these things that they're doing is just God. It's just God. You turn everything to God's hands. Meanwhile, God has given us a responsibility to actually help, to actually do something for ourselves, to actually seek knowledge. The Bible says, I will seek my knowledge from afar. Learned helplessness actually makes you begin to look at knowledge as something that you don't need. You settle for whatever you see. The moment you begin to see yourself asking questions, oh, why should I learn parenting? Oh, why should I learn how to marry? Oh, why should I learn? I've seen marriages crash day by day just because of simple counseling. Just because of simple counseling, nothing more. You just put yourself in one. I beg you, all these things, when they finish, last, all of us will just be at the same level. Who told you? Which last? Learned helplessness, that's what it is. And you're not going to be able to learn. So you're going to constantly see yourself struggle on it. So the word, what is recommended is therapy. But before you start therapy, please buy books and read. Stop telling yourself, I can't read. I hate to hear that thing. I can't read. I don't have time to read. You make out time for what is most important to you. I quote Bishop Oyedepo again. He says, if you can eat, then you can read. If you can eat, then you can read. Sometimes people ask me, Bishop, how is it that you get to read? If I don't read, for instance, if I don't take classes, I don't read, I can't teach something like learned helplessness. I can't. I need to read. I need to study to be able to teach it, to be able to understand it, to be able to impact. How do we do that? When we're just sitting back and saying, no, we just don't need to seek knowledge. Learned helplessness. Get yourself out of it. Tell yourself that I'm not going to settle. Today, I told you that this webinar is going to make you think through your process. That's what I am here to do. Seek knowledge. Seek knowledge. Knowledge. Before you come out and say, oh, I don't have money to go and pay a therapist to get me through this, start reading first. By the time you start reading, a lot will change in your whole mind. Put a budget to buy books for yourself. Let's stop deceiving ourselves. These things don't come by, oh, let me just be learning it. There's a limit to what you can learn on social media. Forget it. That's the truth. There's a limit to what you can learn from me, from Momimo, from whoever that is impacting. But by the time you put it out there, you get a book, you begin to read. There are a lot of books on learned helplessness out there. There's a lot of book. There's a lot of book on neuro-linguistic programming. Are you reprogramming the way you have been programmed? I was telling somebody, I said, I found out that a part of me, when we took tests for adverse childhood effect, if I put out that test here, you will see that 80% of everybody in this place actually had something to do with adverse childhood effect. And these are things that actually need therapy. Budget for books, budget for courses if you can afford it. Start with books, start reading ebooks. 1K, 2K, budget for it. You buy recharge card, there's no excuse. Help yourself. Help yourself. The truth is there's a limit to people can actually help you. You need to help yourself. So we are at the point where we are looking for questions. Questions. I'm going to end with this quote. It's a quote of mine. It says, authority is not fear and control. Authority is trust. Authority is respect. If your child can't trust you, you have lost authority. I'm going to be waiting for questions. Like I said, I don't know why this webinar was so exciting for me. I think it's about new knowledge. In this year, part of what I have said is that I'm going to bring new knowledge out there. New knowledge that we're not looking at researches. A lot have changed. The 21st century, the 2020 year came with a bang with new knowledge. What are you learning? What are you learning? What are you learning? What are you eager to change? Or are you still looking at yourself and saying, oh, I just want to be helpless? Learned helplessness is something that can transverse to so many areas of your life. And the moment you begin to see this thing, and then you can now teach your children. Remember that we said that learned helplessness actually starts from childhood. It doesn't start from adulthood. It starts from childhood. So whatever it is that you're doing for yourself now, you need to also begin to do it for your children. What are you doing for your children? How are you looking at this whole process and saying, I need to work on myself? Let me tell you one of the reasons why I started this journey. I started working on myself on several areas for the sake of the people that have been entrusted, their lives have been entrusted into my hands to raise. I don't know how that sounds to you, but it scares me. It looks to me like the most scary job that God has given me, to raise another God. That's the way I look at it. So for the sake of these ones, I just tell myself, you must be better for it. We can't afford to fail God because we have been given a responsibility. Let's help ourselves so that we can also help the ones that their lives have been entrusted into our hands. So I am going to just wait a while I look at the questions, if there is any. I hope I didn't puncture a lot of, I didn't shake some tables this evening. I tried not to. Please, can you recommend a few books? Okay, Madam says, can you recommend a few books on, okay. All right. I'm seeing questions. Oh, okay, nice. Okay, yes, books on learned optimism. There's a book called Learned Optimism. There's a test actually called Learned Optimism. You can go online and take that test. It's called Learned Optimism. There's also a book. That test was coined out. We also offer that test as a free bonus or something that we do at the academy. That's by the way, but it's available online. It's not anything. It's Learned Optimism by Martin Seligman. Martin Seligman. That's a book I know that when you read, in fact, you're going to be, awesomely, you're going to just understand a lot of the things that we have said shared. Then there's also another book by Mario, Human Learned Helplessness, a coping perspective, how to cope. Mario Mukili, that's his name. You can also get a copy of that. All these books are available on Amazon. All right. Yes, I'm going to share a link here for Learned Optimism. Yes, ma'am, I will. So all these books are available on Amazon. There's also one called The Turned Off Child. Don't mind me, I'm a book junkie, so I might be able to, but I think these three will do. I have like 5 of them. The Turned Off Child is another book. You can buy them on Amazon. The Turned Off Child is also another awesome book on learned helplessness. All right. So you can start with that, ma'am. That will do. So Madam Modube said, Mommy Mo, Wendy, if you understand you correctly, we should listen to what you shared and assess our childhood and recognize and identify how we may have become people who live with learned helplessness. Identify the areas where learned helplessness is showing. Did I get you? Yes, ma'am. It needs to start with our childhood. We need to go back into how we were raised. In fact, for the courses that we run at the academy, in my own academy, one of the things that we do is that we start with how were you parented. I don't do anything with you without taking you through that process. How were you raised? Because that gives me an insight of whatever it is that I'm going to be doing with you. Because a lot of things that we have, adverse childhood effects, learned helplessness, all these things are the things that have affected us via our via our upbringing. Can you share the AC test available for us? Yes, I have a copy of it. I will also share, but I will share after the class. Yes, Learned Optimism, Chinyerobina. Can you also share link? Yes, I will share link for the Learned Optimism. I think I'm going to embed it on the website and then share it here. Yes, The Turned Off Child, by Robert and Minor Gordon. I think that's their name. I want to be sure. The Turned Off Child was written by Robert and Minor Gordon. Those are their names. But once you put the Turned Off Child, it is a learned helplessness and school of failure. Robert J. Gordon. Once you put it online, you're going to see all that is required. Okay, so I don't think there's any more questions. Like I said, I have enjoyed this class. I am really excited. It's been one of my, very, very, very awesome webinars. Thank you so much, Mommy Mo. I think in fact, you put out this and it came at a very, right time. The topic, and in fact, it's wrapped up all the things that have been coming up and the new knowledge that is out there today. But most importantly, let us not forget that knowledge is a prerequisite in this 21st century. It's a century of knowledge. The other centuries were industrialized, and white collar. This is a century of knowledge. If you're not getting knowledge, you're going to miss it. Please do not take any of it for granted. I want to thank everybody. I've seen a lot of my people in this place. So all the tests that is supposed to be made available, I will make it available as soon as possible. Thank you so much for an awesome class. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the invitation. I look forward to being here again at any time that you call. Thank you so much. If you want to reach me, you can reach me with any of the details up here. If you want me to do any other this thing, as you want the slides, I was looking at how I could put up the slide and then share it as an ebook or something so that people can have access. If my team is able to do that, I'll let you know. I don't want to saddle them. I don't want to say what it is that we are. They are not. Well, already we have a lot of work on our hand, but we will see how we should be able to do this. It shouldn't be, so much difficult. And we could also keep this. I'm sure people will be able to catch up on it. And as we see comments here, I will also come here to respond to them. My name is Wendy Ologe. I am a parent coach and I'm an author of the 2 bestsellers called Connect to Correct and The Discipline That Works. Thank you so much and have an amazing evening.